What do you do in those circumstances where it's just the world is on fire? Let's just say it. The world is on fire and everyone is looking at you to stay calm. And leadership, I think, doesn't usually fall apart in the big moments. It really works up to them in these quiet moments under pressure, expectations, and this unspoken belief that you're just supposed to always have it together. And that's where I think joy at work and joy in your leadership is most misunderstood, because joy isn't optimism. Joy isn't pretending things are fine and they're not on fire. And it's also not a reward for getting everything right. So welcome to the JOYOSITY podcast. And this podcast is a place where we are exploring joy at work. I have interviews with experts and other leaders. I'm Jen Whitmer, your host, keynote speaker, author, all-around joy bringer, helping us understand joy and joyosity as a practice, one that we can return to when the pressure is real and difficult and the stakes are high, and those old ways of just pushing harder just stop working. And so this series, we are doing a mini series talking about joyosity, not just in the big picture idea, not just the theory, but really bringing it into the lived experience with real leaders, real tension, and the real moments when staying human and being human is what helps your leadership the most. And so I am so excited because I wanted Ken Miller on in this season, because he is one of those people that he already told me he wakes up comfortable. He brings calm, he brings perspective and a real clarity to moments that matter. And he's been around high stakes leadership for a long time. And really, he knows the difference between urgency and something that is important and something that doesn't need to be done right now. And this conversation, I hope, will be incredibly grounding for you and inspiring to help you put joy into practice. So let's welcome Ken Miller.
Good morning. It's great to be here, Jen. Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're joining us today. You have been so persistent, and I appreciate it because I am the one that has been like, yes, I want you to talk to you. So I am eager to have this conversation. And before I jump into all of my questions, I would just love for you to tell our people, how did you get here as an author, a leader in all of these places? Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, Jen, first of all, I love your introduction. So let me do my version. My name is Ken Miller. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a keynote speaker. I speak all over the country, and I'm an all-around nice guy. That is my truth.
I love it. We've got a joy bringer and nice guy.
Yeah, we have an all-around nice guy.
The feels.
But my quick story, and I'll make it a quick one. I was a foster child, first 6 years, foster homes, got adopted when I was age 6. I was precocious as a child, and therefore I was fortunate enough to be accepted to Dartmouth College. I was also accepted to Harvard. I went to Dartmouth, got my degree, and then unfortunately I graduated with a degree in fraternity with a minor in drinking. And once I got out with that created some difficulty. So I went to my first treatment center and went into the corporate world, worked for Kodak 3M. And then I relapsed and ended up doing about 21 years on the streets as an addict. And also I'm a 3-time convicted felon, did many years behind bars. Finally, in 2004, I got cleaned up. I've been clean ever since, just celebrated 21 years clean and sober. Thank you. You're going to see where a lot of my joy comes from. Because it really is, it comes from the kissing cousin, which is gratitude. But I got clean and did 3 years in the penitentiary. I got out with no skills. And then I put into place some skill sets that I had. And mainly, I had a sense of agency and urgency that allowed me to be successful back into business as an employee. And then in 2014, I started the first of my companies, and I have 4 of them now. So I've been blessed, and look forward to talking about leadership and growth and joy and gratitude.
Hmm. Well, one of the things I so admire about you, we met on a Zoom call of keynote speakers,
Mhm.
and you were just asking a great question, and I was like, I want to talk to this guy, and we, chatted a little bit and found out a little about your story. And the reason I connected with it so much, because it would seem strange as a white woman who's never been in prison. I've not
Mhm.
had this experience. My parents are still married, all of the things that would separate us in our stories. The thing about your story is that you understand the concept that joy comes from depth, not just things
Mhm.
going well. And like
Mhm.
you said, it has a kissing cousin of gratitude.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Because part of joy is feeling really fortunate, feeling favored, blessed, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do this now. And I love talking to people who have experienced that switch from, oh, I just keep working and I kind of almost make it hard on myself, rather than the people who have come out of something and recognized, oh, this is hard. And we all have our different kinds of hard. The heaviest thing you're going through is the heaviest thing you're going through.
Mhm.
But that, when you truly walk it out, actually will create joy when you understand that on the other side. So thank you for sharing your story. I'm so thrilled to talk to you. And, when we think about leaders, and you've started multiple companies, you've
Mhm.
been in high stakes environments of
Mhm.
multiple kinds, uh,
Mhm.
and some that, are truly dangerous, some that
Mhm.
feel high pressure, all of those types of things. What do you think leaders misunderstand most about high pressure situations and the ability to stay calm in that? What do you think they misunderstand?
They misunderstand emotions.
Mm.
That's the key.
Say that again.
They misunderstand emotions
Amen.
and feelings,
Hmm.
which are not cognitive processes to lead you to a solution and or acceptance of a present truth.
Hmm.
So when you're caught up in anger or fear, especially fear, because fear and anger are very connected. But when you're caught up in fear, it limits the resources that you can avail yourself cognitively. Literally, it shuts it
Hmm.
down, shuts down the
Absolutely.
rational part of the brain.
Hmm.
And so when leaders are caught into positions that they're fear-based, and there's other emotions, but fear-based predominantly, it makes it very difficult to make the next correct decision for the greater good. Because remember, you have fear of your individual fear, and you have fear of the organism or the entity or the group. Okay, so let's talk about a corporate. You're in a corporate situation where there is fear at the board level. And what we're trying to deal with is an aberration, a misstep, or whatever it may be, financial, physical, legal. There's a lot of different ones that we've dealt with.
Hmm.
And now you're fear based. And what happens many times with fear based, this is another thing about fear based, is many times we make decisions too quickly. And so, because we're trying to ameliorate the fear, the potential pain that we think that this
Hmm.
event has. So, anyway, one of the things you just have to, as a leader, we have to take a step back. I call it gap control.
Ah, love that phrase.
Yeah.
I love that, because I talk about the liminal space.
Okay. I love it.
I mean, that's like the fancy technical term, but
Right.
gap,
Right. 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 Right.
it's beautiful, Ken.
Yeah. I call it gap control. 'Cause
Yeah.
in football, we have things called gaps. Okay. And what you do is a gap is between the tackle and the guard. I'm not going to go into the sports analogy too much or the metaphor. But what we have in gap control is we have input. And
Hmm.
then what is the space and or gap between output? And if the space is very small, it's a reaction. What we
Hmm.
want to do is, and leader especially, is lead with action. So I'm going to go and take time. And sometimes all we need is 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I've heard great leaders say, "Hey, why don't we just take a time out? Why don't we just take a quick break? Let's take some time to think about this because everybody's in fear, or everybody has this concern on the board, or at the C-suite level of the corporation or organization." And so what we do is we try to take that break to then use our analytical cognitive tools, the part of the brain that weighs pros and cons, repercussions. How is this going to affect the whole organization, not just me as the leader or the C-suite people that I'm talking to, but how is this going to affect others? And then bring those into play, and then make the best decision that we possibly can. Then we act, not react. That's gap control.
It is, I think, one of the key skills that gets left behind with the corporate narrative of leave your emotions behind. That idea of like, leave your emotions at the door. They don't belong in here because they're already there. So what do you see that happens when people don't have gap control and they're not like saying, oh, here's how I'm feeling. They're not recognizing it and taking a pause. They're pretending it doesn't exist, but then they're almost still being controlled by that fear and anger. What does that look like? What have you seen that look like?
It doesn't look good because so what we do is we have a reaction that first forms in the brain. Then it's going to manifest itself through two means, usually verbal or email or action. Okay. And I'm talking about these are these negative reactions to this input that has made us fearful. And what it has a tendency to do is then it gets the others in a position that now they're reacting or acting towards what you've given them as input. And it just creates this vicious cycle. So I've seen situations in the boardroom, which, a lot of people think, well, they are 90% of the time, 95, they're very staid. We take care of our business and we move on. I've been on multiple boards, corporate and nonprofit.
And they tend to pride themselves on being very rational.
Yes.
Like they're rational, which is
we have to
good.
be.
We do need rational. However, if you forget the emotions, you will be controlled by them.
Yes. Yeah. But there's some emotions we want to bring into play, like love, compassion, forgiveness. I mean, there's great. And I'm doing this out of love for the staff members or for the frontline employees. Okay. I'm going to set up this mentoring program within or workplace sponsorship program within our organization. Great. That's out of love.
Absolutely.
Okay. Or I have an individual that has a concern or a challenge. Hey, take the week off, paid, take care of your mother, take care of your child, whatever it may be. I didn't have that. I'll be real frank with you, Jen. I did not have that. When I first started in the corporate world as in management. I was very rigid. You got to play by the rules. And I didn't see people, I hate to say I didn't see people as human, but I just thought there was a box of rules that we had to stick by because I didn't come out of compassion and love.
Sure.
Now that's how I do life.
Yeah. How do you notice the difference in, I don't love the word results or outcomes, but when you are operating in, if I could call it control, like I'm going to follow the rules and this is how I'm going to control things, out of, self-preservation, you didn't know it. You were doing it in the time with the best that you knew. And now you're operating differently. What do you notice differently about the way employees responded, your teams performed then versus now when you're operating from this place of gap control, love, compassion? What do you notice is the difference that you see?
The first difference that you'll usually will notice is that people are more open, because what they'll attempt to do is hide things from you because they know that there's boxes that you say, I have to be here at 7 a.m. Well, my child was sick and I had to take it to a different daycare or whatever the reasoning was. Talk to me. Why were you an hour? Okay, cool. Hey, let's have a great day and let's move on. That's number one. Probably number two thing that you'll notice in the atmosphere is that you will have increased productivity because there's a way of working when people feel this is the word I like to say, when people feel seen as an individual as opposed to a number or a cog in a wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And many times in management, and I'm talking, it's interesting. We could have a whole conversation, management versus leadership.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was a manager
Mm-hmm.
because again, and remember, a lot of my management was fear-based.
Sure.
So I create order to protect me,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and protect my position within the company. Okay, you guys know what the rules are. I'm real rigid on this, da 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 da. Because if you're here from 8 to 5, then I know I'm going to get this amount of work done, whatever.
No, in quotes, I would say.
In quotes, believe me, in quotes. And there was a very specific time where I realized this. And what had happened, I was at an event for a nonprofit, and I was a development director, and I had staff. And my wife at the time came to me. She said, "Do you know that XYZ staff member is crying in the back?" I said, "What do you mean she's crying? This is at the event."
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "You said this, this, and this." I berated her over something that was really small.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, in my checklist, you need to be perfect in this, or you need to check off all these marks instead of allowing one of my favorite words, tolerance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And tolerance is as a human that made a mistake, maybe doing it later, whatever. But I had a timeline and a checklist. And so I had to go back there. I was wife ordered to go back there and apologize. And I did. And I had to look at that.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And I did. I went inside, plus I went to my mentors and discussed it. And I finally started getting an understanding about tolerance and about gaps and about order and checklists and all the things that I was doing to be a great manager, or what I thought was a great manager. Because you can be a great manager and still, do it with love.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
And there is a difference a little between, manager and a leader.
And a leader, yeah. I mean, I think you can be a leader without having any title at all.
Mhm.
And I say a lot that you can't lead anybody else until you lead yourself first. And that's where that self-awareness begins, the gap control, knowing what part of the control you're reaching for, what the fear is. All of that is leading yourself. And I love this story that you just told, because first of all, it's so honest. We've all made mistakes in the past. And I think leaders, if we don't learn from those mistakes first for ourselves and then don't share them with other people, we perpetuate this idea of perfection, of like, you get to the top by just doing it right all the time, which I think is the opposite of how you get there. You get to the top by experimenting and caring for people and learning from your mistakes. Like when you learn from something that didn't go well relationally, which is that particular instant, or you learn from, well, that product launch didn't go well. How do we learn from that? We have to learn from mistakes. Mistakes and failure are part of the process of innovation, of creativity, of growing. You can't grow without that. So I appreciate the story. And I want more leaders to recognize, well, where did I learn this? And then you can share that with other people. One of the things I talk about in JOYOSITY in the book is our cultural corporate obsession with measurement. And I think besides the human desire for control, like we want to protect ourselves and have control. Besides that, we've turned that into this, you have to prove to us that you are doing these. You have to check the boxes in some way. And that's why leading by checklist feels easy, because like, oh, I did the thing. See, therefore I am good. It has a lot more nuance, a lot more humility, a lot more human-centered to say, oh, first of all, I'm going to listen to somebody that I don't work with. To listen to your wife, to recognize what's happening, and then to go back and say, I didn't do that well. I treated you in a way that wasn't good, or however you apologized. But to do that and then to change and learn, that is leadership that brings us so much more. As you said, people don't hide things. They feel seen. They're more productive. Those are the things that are still skills that we can learn how to do. They just don't look the same as this checklist way of managing and leading people.
Hey, let me just say something. I love checklists. I make one every morning. Okay.
I have a
I
to-do
know.
list right now. I could show you. That is, but that's not how I manage the people.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the checklist manifesto by
Mhm.
Grande. And so I understand, and this is one of the most important things as leaders, and most leaders who are good leaders do understand this.
Mhm.
People think differently.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. I
Mm,
thought everybody thought like me. I'm
yeah.
a very linear person. They call me a concrete sequential. That's
Yep.
the type. And so everything is a bullet point
Mhm.
and literally, and I still operate by that day. And I'm fine when it's for me. Okay.
Mhm.
But I had to find out that some people are more artistic. Some people, I couldn't stand a messy office. I would
Mm,
literally tell my staff, clean up your office, but they would still get the desired results. I know we're not talking about outcomes, but the things I needed for us to be successful as an organization.
right.
But I just like close your door or something when I bring a client by.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they're still, and they're lovely people. But I thought everybody thought like I did. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm. Oh,
What kind of
I don't think it's
hubris is that?
I don't think it's crazy. I think it is our natural human way of thinking until we earn the perspective. Like until we are like,
Mm.
oh, we're like, you listen to somebody else or you do some type of activity that helps you physically see that you're looking at it from different perspectives. And I think even when we know that, we also forget, like we just default to everybody's thinking like me. And we have to remember, oh, wait, that they might be looking at this differently. They might be seeing this from a very different lived experience, set of goals, like all of
Mhm.
those perspectives
Mhm.
are all around. And they might not even process it in the same way. I have a
Right.
keynote and workshop on conflict resolution.
Mhm.
And it is that, and I tell a funny story about our family and walking away from a vacation. And so half of us were like, that was amazing. And then years later find out that everybody else was like, that was horrible, because we walked away from different perspectives. And that we cannot assume that anyone thinks, feels,
Mhm.
believes,
Mhm.
or this one interprets information the way that we do. Because we can
Exactly.
all share the rest of it and then come to a different conclusion is still somewhat mind blowing to us, but it's still true. And that, as a leader, getting your head around that can be really challenging. So, how do you help people when they are like recognizing this idea of like, oh, there are different perspectives? How do you share with leaders that like how to get that perspective and honor other people's perspectives when they are in that role?
Well, you got to understand it. You have
Mm,
to understand that people have different learning styles. People have different ways of looking at the world. People have, like you said, and I love it, learned experience. They have a
mhm.
different truth than you do
Yeah.
about different things. And to understand that there still has to be, and there are still guardrails around the organization for
Mhm.
financial and legal reasons.
Mhm.
But within the parameter of that framework of that organization, whether the organization is a football team, whether the organization is nonprofit, for profit, whatever volunteer group, there's still that framework. Within that framework, what I just came to the point, I'm just going to allow people to be themselves, to be
Mhm.
human.
Yeah.
And it's such a, I don't know, it was freeing for me, but I had to understand that. So as a leader, I need to understand that. I need to go to trainings to understand different personalities. I
Yep.
need to take some of the tests. I need to put our group together and have everyone take the tests, because there's like 3 or 4 different tests that you can take.
Oh yeah.
Myers-Briggs. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ones. I
Mhm.
know at least 3 off the top of my head
Oh
that I've
yeah.
taken,
Mhm.
and have the whole group so they can also understand that this is how Bob comes at it. This is how Jane looks at this same problem. We
Mhm.
can all get to the desired result, okay, which is to continue the organization and provide for our families, because that, in the end, that's what it's for. I'm talking about in a company or even
Yeah,
in a profit. I have two
absolutely.
things. One, I want the organization to have quote unquote success.
Right.
Number two, I want you to be able to support and provide the means that are necessary for your family. I
Hmm.
mean, I even say that to people.
Yeah. And those don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Not at
Like,
all. No.
and in fact, they should be together.
Mhm.
And I love that you brought in the idea of really how to start understanding other people's perspectives. I tomorrow am doing a kickoff meeting with an organization that is a small business here
Mhm.
in St. Louis, and I'm working with them for the next 6 to 9 months. And tomorrow's the kickoff, and what we're starting with is personality. And so
Oh,
we're going to spend
beautiful.
the afternoon together. And I work with the personality tool called the Enneagram. I've worked with many,
Yeah.
many others.
Uh-huh.
But what I have found is that when we begin with that in a really healthy way, the perspective sharing almost just uh, it just completely expands, and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't like all this, everything starts to make sense. There's so much more compassion and empathy. You're like, I get now why this was happening for you, rather than, oh my gosh, why are you doing this? Like, you just have so much more compassionate energy. And
Mhm.
it happens every time, every single time. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow, because it's one of my favorite
Yeah.
times with the team, the first discoveries of, oh, our perspectives are different. Now that I know that, we now have more power to work together. And I think it's I'm really glad that you brought that point up when we talk about how do we get perspective and treat people really well. So as we start to wrap this up, I mean, I could talk to you for so much longer. I have
Mhm. Mhm.
literally like 10 more questions I prepared. But if we've got a leader listening right now, they're
Mhm.
feeling really overwhelmed and they're reaching for control or trying to ignore emotions. What what would you want them to understand about their position and strength? How can you help them start to reach for something healthier
Mhm.
in those tense circumstances?
One of two things, or probably both. Number one, you have to get outside of self. You
Mm.
have to get outside of self. You have to find someone that is a trusted advisor. You can call it a mentor, you can call it a coach. I'd rather call it a mentor, because mentors are free, coaches cost.
And they do
And I
different.
don't mind coaches. I don't mind coaches, but mentors sometimes, or most of the time, have your interest and heart as a person as opposed
Mhm,
as to a client. And I'm not
mhm.
saying there's some great, I coach, so I'm not
Yeah,
saying there's any
same.
bad coaches.
Totally get it.
But what I'm saying is you have to get outside of self and be able to run by, this is how I feel. And it's, the feeling is almost not the important. This is why I believe I feel this way.
Mhm.
What is the set pieces of this feeling?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So paint a picture of the situation, the people, the place, the thing. Okay. But anyway, getting outside of self. That's the number one. And then number two, and this is the reason why I think people who have a spiritual program many times do well.
Yeah.
Because again, it's getting outside of self. Remember, there's always three conversations that go on: self talk, external talk, which self talk is internal,
Mhm.
external, and spiritual, if you
Yep.
so believe.
Mhm.
And then two of them get you outside of self.
Exactly.
Okay? Because many times we don't talk to ourselves well. We don't talk to ourselves with a high self image or self respect, let
Right.
alone self esteem.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's the number one. And then the other thing that I'm really big, and a person that potentially is your mentor or a coach, is you have to self audit. I'm a
Ah.
big one on self audit.
Mhm.
You have to look at self. And then
Mhm.
one other thing I want to bring up, because this is something I've been really resonating on in the last 3 to 4 months. I'm good with good. I'm gonna write a book on this.
I
I'm
love this.
good with good.
Mhm.
The Good to Great series, this is my truth, I believe is a disservice to
Mm.
many. You will never be great. You will
Mhm.
never outrun Usain Bolt in the 100-meter dash.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about it on almost every level. And the reason is not because you're not a good person or whatever. It's you don't have the capacity
Yeah.
of time and money to
Those
be
were
great.
the
And
hand
so
you
you beat
dealt.
yourself up because I'm not great. And so I am good with good or very good. I am so good with that. One other thing I wanted to say to this subject is to get to a point within your journey where you're well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you this, Jen, my 100% truth. I am well.
I
I
love
am
that.
well today.
Mm-hmm.
I do life well.
Mm-hmm.
I have ups and downs. I don't even have ups and downs. I
That's
have
good.
life.
Yeah.
People die on me.
Mm-hmm.
Financial concerns, sometimes family concern, whatever. But I do life well.
Mm-hmm.
And because I do life well, I'll be real frank with you, I'm not working on Ken today. I'm working on giving out the sum total of my experience, my truth, my knowledge to help others. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I do because
Yeah.
I'm not reading 100 self-help books. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good. And I'm a good person. How do I know that? Because people reflect that back to me.
Yeah. And there's so much power in finding. This sounds so teachery. I mean, I was an educator for 25 years, but like it's the appropriate standard. Like perfection is it's unattainable.
Mhm.
And great is almost can be at times the law of diminishing returns. The amount of effort it
Yes,
would take to get
yes,
there actually not
yes.
going to help you be great as a holistic person. And one of the things that I love talking about in my Joyosity keynote and in the book is when we're experiencing joy and working toward joy 35% of the time. That's it. If we have joy 35% of the time in our week, and there's 3 markers of joy, and if we're doing that, we experience this idea of the wellness, of being well, of being successful, of feeling joy, and all of the other benefits that come at work when you have joy at work, the increased productivity, the increased retention, engagement, all those things we want. But it doesn't have to be, it's never going to be 100% of the time. It's never. So I love that idea as well.
Mhm.
Good is good. And oh my gosh, I'm going to mess it up. Like, I remember I was like, my grandmother used to say to me, it's good enough and enough can be a feast. And
Wow.
I think about that sometimes when we talk about, and I love things to be great, but I also get to decide what that feels like. It doesn't mean my great it's definitely not Usain Bolt, because good Lord, no, that is not me. But like even if you're in my industry, I don't need to be the top whoever
Mhm. Yeah.
to be really good and enjoy it and to help people and
Mhm.
help people transform their lives. Good is good, and good enough
It
is
is good enough.
so I so loved this conversation. Before we close, will you please tell people how they can find you, connect with you? Also, before one more thing,
Okay, sure.
I love the title of your book, Becoming.
Uh-huh.
And I love it so much because I talk about, I resonate with that idea of you are becoming, it's a being, not a doing. And sometimes it's a shedding of things and allowing your favorite self to show up when you can release ego and get outside of yourself. And that is part of becoming. And so I enjoy that part of your book. So your book is Becoming. Tell us how to find you, how to find it before we wrap up.
Oh, well, if you would like the book Becoming Ken, it's on Amazon and it's also on Audible.
Mm-hmm.
And
And you can find it here on your
yep,
QR, and you have one too.
I remember. And then if you want to get a hold of me, because what I love to do is speak.
Mm-hmm.
I believe like you do, Jen. I love to speak from the stage. I love sharing. I love to talk after the share when you meet
Uh-huh.
people who have resonated with what you have said and what you have allowed into this public sphere. So if you are interested in potentially me speaking, please feel free to reach out to me at Ken Miller Speaks, or Ken Miller 84 is my LinkedIn. And I answer every message personally. I do have virtual assistants that do other things, but I answer every message. And I would just I appreciate everybody who's listening. What a great thing that you've taken some of your capacity of time to
Yeah.
listen to this wonderful podcast, because Jenna's phenomenal.
Oh, thank
And,
you.
I'm serious. I've been doing this for a minute. And as a host, you do an incredible job. And it's just, I wish we could do another hour. I mean, just to smile. I mean, I'm just having fun. I have joy right now.
Oh, I'm
Just
so glad.
doing this, you
Oh,
know. You can cut on my smile. And I don't, we have a term in the Black community, I don't fake the funk. And it means I'm keeping it real.
yeah.
Keeping it 100.
So good. I feel the same. And those are very kind words. Thank you. You have, it's very easy to interview people who have a depth and experience and are willing to be vulnerable and share. So you have made my job very easy and said really great things for people. And I have that question for you if you're listening. Again, as you know, I'm always so grateful that you choose to spend your time with us, whether you are walking in the car, doing something else. And my question for you to ponder, because I always have to put my coach hat on at the end, is what did this stir up for you? What is something that Ken said that in our conversation, or I said, that really were like, oh, wow, I gotta think about that. What landed with you? What challenged you? And I would love to hear. Feel free to share on LinkedIn. If you're like, oh, that's too much, you can always tell me, but there is power in telling somebody what's happening inside of you. Just as Ken said, like that external conversation, get it outside of the internal talk into external. You can email me, Jen at jenwhitmer.com, Jen with 2 N's. You can DM me on LinkedIn and Instagram. As you know, all of those things will be in the show notes, as well as Ken's information will be in the show notes. And I have one more invitation for you is you can't change everything in a day. So what is the one thing that you grabbed from this, the one small practice, the one idea that you want to noodle on? And Joyosity isn't about becoming someone new. It's really staying connected with who you are and your favorite self, even when leadership gets very hard, that you stay human in the middle of all of that. So thank you for being here. If this was helpful, please share it. Give us a rating. Algorithms really like stars. And so I appreciate that, because what it does is it helps more people really access the idea that joy isn't extra. It's really the center of all that we do. So thank you for being here today. Ken, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. And we will see you all next week. Bye, everybody.